for Facebook, YouTube, and X. We're sending data out to those folks. Our Facebook page is streaming. Our X channel is streaming, and YouTube is streaming. So we're all set to go and start. All right, folks, Gene Galin here with the Chatham Journal, and I've got Asheebo Rojas, sports writer for the Chatham News and Record for our ChathamNC Sports Roundup. As always, thanks so much for watching. We had over 2,000, I think over 2,500 views last week, and it was almost 1,500 of you stopped by and took a look at us. Again, most of you watch us after this live stream, and that is fine. All right, of course, this is the last week of football. Last Friday, we had some game results. Asheebo will touch on those tonight. Actually, all four Chatham County schools that play football are playing tonight instead of tomorrow. I guess it's because of Halloween. Chatham Central, you see they're also playing. We're going to finish up with it's not the final power rankings, but second last power rankings. Then I'll give you a little bit of information on Drake Powell and Jaron Stevenson. Volleyball championship game coming up tomorrow night. Asheebo will talk about that. We'll also get into soccer updates, girls flag football championships coming up next week, golf, tennis, cross country, and then we'll talk about what's coming up in today's Chatham News and Record. This week's Chatham News and Record print paper comes out today, so make sure to pick up a copy of that. And as always, we got everyone's favorite, Asheebo's Athlete of the Week. We'll find out who that is going to be towards the end of this live stream. So let me take this out of the way. Let's get Asheebo on there. I think we can. There you go. Hold on. Let me just check for just a second. All right, Asheebo, tell us what went on in football last week.
Yeah, football last week. I think the biggest game we had was Seaforth going up to JF Webb for a chance at clinching the big 4A, 5A conference championship. Seaforth ended up losing that game, giving the championship to JF Webb, who actually won it with Orange beating South Granville that same night. But Seaforth, regardless, it was an interesting game, very, very interesting for both teams, especially on Seaforth's side. They were right there with JF Webb early in that game. I think they were trailing halftime 14-7, and then JF Webb comes out, takes a lead there in the third quarter. Early in the fourth quarter, they were up 44-21. But in the last 9 minutes or so of that game, Seaforth really found their spark offensively, started running some more hurry-up, fast-paced type of offense, and they got 3 touchdowns in the time up until the final buzzer to bring themselves back within one score. So they ended the game losing 44-39. That final possession, defense just couldn't get a stop in the run game, which was an issue for the Hawks all night, with stopping the rushing attack from JF Webb. And they fell to that one 44-39, like I said. And I talked to their coach, Tolbert Matthews, after that game, and he talked about how he was just, really disappointed in his team not showing up with the same fight in the beginning of the game that they showed at the end, because they had plenty of opportunities to stop some big runs from JF Webb. They fixed a lot of their issues defensively, actually, in that second quarter, where both teams were scoreless, but then offensively, just once again, penalties, more mistakes led them to not finding the end zone there until pretty much the very end of the game. And yeah, in this one, like I said, they just couldn't stop the run game. They had 2 running backs rush for, I think, over 100 yards in this one. And as a team, let me pull up the official stats for you from this game. But yeah, just another something we talked about before this game is that stopping the run was going to be a key thing, something that Seaforth has struggled with all season. Yeah, in this one, Michaelis Hopgood, who, of course, had that record-breaking game a couple weeks ago, 228 yards for him on 25 carries. Josiah Daniel, 189 yards on 19 carries. So that was really the biggest thing that hurt the Hawks in this one. But also around the county, we had Northwood going up against Southwestern Randolph last week as well. This was another big game for Northwood to see if they could continue their spark of wins here at the end of the season and get a stronger hold on that second place spot in the conference. But they fell in this one in a defensive battle, 20-14, like I said, and they had 3 takeaways. The Northwood's defense had 3 takeaways in that first half of that game. They had a fumble recovery And you had Willie Boynton getting an interception in the second quarter, and you had Grayson Cox return an interception for a touchdown after Ben Porter blew up a screenplay. Ball popped up in the air. Grayson was right there and took it right in the end zone. But as a whole on defense, they did have a little bit of trouble containing Southwestern Randolph running back Brody Shepard. He had 2 touchdowns, one for 11 yards for 7-0 lead in the first quarter. Then he went for 42 yards to the end zone for a 14-7 lead just before halftime. And Robert Tripp was also back for Northwood's offense in this game, though. So that was a good sign for Northwood. He had a 20-yard score, tied the game at 14 midway through the third quarter. But later on in the fourth quarter, deep in Northwood territory, Southwestern Randolph, they got the final say on this game with a 7-yard touchdown pass to sophomore Levi Dalk to win this one 20-14. And then also we had Chatham Central playing South Davidson. That one pretty much went as we expected. South Davidson dominating Chatham Central 48-6. And in this one, Chatham Central just couldn't get anything going offensively. Still a struggle for them with Carson Jackson taking over at quarterback for Brooks Albright, who was lost earlier in the season due to injury. But South Davidson pretty much got what they wanted on offense. Their quarterback, Gage Underwood, led the rushing attack with 106 of South Davidson's 342 yards on the ground. And as a team, they had 7 rushing touchdowns. Underwood had 3 of them. So this one was pretty much over in the first half. And Chatham Central is going to move on to their final game, of course, this tonight. And Jordan Matthews, of course, are going to come back from a bye last week. They were the only county team that did not play. So looking into matchups for tonight, not much as far as conference championships, anything like that on the line. Really just all the teams looking to finish strong here before the playoffs next week. And we find out exactly where they'll go, who they'll play in that first round. And for some teams like Northwood, and we'll get into that right now, this could be a big game as far as RPI. Northwood is hosting West Carteret tonight, 5A team that's non-conference. Of course, higher up in classification, 5-4. So this could do some good things for them as far as seeding if they're able to win this game tonight. Looking at this team, though, with West Carteret, they've lost 3 of their last 4, including a 49-21 loss to Coritan last week. Just keys on offense, senior running back Joshua Bauman. He's leading their unit with over 1,100 rushing yards on the ground and 11 touchdowns this year. And then their quarterback, senior quarterback, Tanner Payne, he's been very productive as well with their offense with 24 touchdown passes, over 2,000 yards this year. So looking at their defense from West Carteret, I think that's been their Achilles heel this season and where they've gotten into some trouble. They've been in a lot of high-scoring games this season. And like I said, Robert Tripp is back for Northwood. So opportunity here for Northwood, I think, to see if they can get up some points against a really good opponent here. I don't think it's going to be a very high-scoring game. I do think both teams will be able to find an end zone, of course, a couple of times back and forth. I actually think it's going to be a closer game tonight, but I do think West Carteret is going to pull this one out over Northwood 28-21. And then also in the county, we have Seaforth hosting Carborough for their last game of the season. And this game, I think it's another opportunity for Seaforth to get a big win, put up a lot of points tonight, and end their season off with a bang. But really a bounce-back game as well, a chance to bounce back, get some things right from what they messed up in the JF Webb game. I think the key here is the same thing that Coach Tobert Matthews will probably tell his team all week is, hey, we got to come out and we got to start fast. Looking for Seaforth here to put Carborough away early in this game. I think that'll be a good sign if they're able to do that and have a big night, have a nice night for their senior night. Let the seniors rest on the sideline while the young guys go in there, that type of night. So I think Seaforth's going to win big over Carborough 41-6. And then we have Jordan Matthews is going to be playing Eastern Randolph in a final conference game tonight. Eastern Randolph, best team so far in the Four Rivers 4A, 5A conference. And coming off a bye. I think Jordan Matthews, of course, looking to pull off this upset. Of course, they're 5-4 on the season. Eastern Randolph 7-2. Eastern Randolph 4 wins in a row, 56-0 win over Northmore last week. So they've looked really good. And I think the keys here are their junior running backs, Kobe Walker and James Combs, combining for just a really good running back duo. A lot of yards and scores this year. And they have a nice quarterback in Cade McCollum Jr., who's been really spreading the wealth to many of their receivers, such as Caden Ravel, Kanan Glover, both of those guys who lead the team in receiving yards per game and receiving touchdowns. So a big night coming up for Jordan Matthews defense. We'll see. The key there is if they could be that aggressive defensive line we saw at certain times this season and getting in the backfield and muddying some things up in the run game. But biggest thing for me, for what Jordan Matthews has been a problem in their losses this year is, can the offensive line not only protect Kamari Hadley, but create holes for Jakari Blue to break off some big runs, because I think their offense really relies on their run game, especially if Blue gets it going, then that opens up running opportunities for Hadley too. And if you got both of those guys clicking, it's going to be hard to stop them in the rushing attack. So we'll see if Jordan Matthews can see some improvement there if they don't get the win tonight. I do think Eastern Randolph is going to win this game 35-12 tonight. And then we have one final game for Chatham Central of the regular season. They're going to be playing Winston-Salem Prep. And in this one, I think it's going to be a close game for Chatham Central. I think Winston-Salem Prep is more on their level, another 1-8 team, and it is a good chance to see if Chatham Central can overcome what they've lost this season and in the year, the regular season with a win here. Winston-Salem Prep coming off a 34-0 loss to South Stokes in Week 10, and they start the season 0-7, only win coming against College Prep and Leadership in a very close game. Of course, College Prep and Leadership beat Chatham Central in a close one too. I think that's where Chatham Central did lose their key players there, and they've had a really hard time finding the end zone this season. So I think with Chatham Central's defense, those guys hunker down and step up. I think it could be a big night for them. And offensively, they can just find ways to execute, find the end zone maybe once or twice this game. It could be a big win to end the year. It'll be their second win in the season, which I think it's been a while since we've seen 2 wins in the season for Chatham Central, official wins at least, because I know last year we had another one, but that game technically didn't count on the schedule. But prediction-wise, I do think Winston-Salem Prep will still come out on top in this one in a very close matchup, 12-6. And Gene, what you think of this week's games?
All right. Actually, before we get to this week's games, I want to know, last week you predicted that Seaforth was going to lose their game, and Coach Talbert was watching us while you made that prediction. Did he say anything to you when you were out there at that game?
Oh, no. I was only able to talk to Talbert right after. And like I said, and he was, really, really frustrated with how the game went. And I think a lot of the boys were too, just because they played so well at the end of that game. Had they maybe even played like that just in the third quarter, it could be a different story. We could be saying, hey, Seaforth is the conference champion and looking for, a pretty good placement in the playoffs here. But they did let it slip away from them, especially early on. Just couldn't get stops in that game. So we didn't really talk much about the performance. Not the performance, the prediction before the game, but more of just the performance. And Tober expressed that.
Yeah, and they're playing Carborough tonight. I actually ran into a Carborough student last night, and he was saying, yeah, they're not expecting to win that one. So I definitely agree with that prediction. Northwood versus Carteret. You know what? With Robert Tripp back, and I know it was off and on whether he was even going to get back before the end of the season, but it's nice to hear that he's going to come back. I can see that going, like you said, Northwood losing that one 21-28, or maybe even winning that one 28-21. I figured it will be a close game. Jan versus Eastern Randolph. I definitely agree with your assessment. You do the best job on being able to figure out how these guys are going to do against the other teams. And Chatham Central, again, with all their hurt players that they've had this season, I will have to agree with you. I'm hoping they win, but in all likelihood, they're going to come up a little bit short. So That's good to know. Also, and I think you mentioned this, Northwood and Seaforth, this is their senior night games tonight. Northwood is doing their seniors. They're doing the band, cheerleaders, and players before the start of the game. So that's going to be started, think about 6:20. I think they start with the band, then the cheerleaders, and then the football players at Seaforth. My understanding, based upon what you and I saw last night, is they're having their halftime. They're having their players brought up during halftime. Although that might change, because usually football teams like to bring up their players before the game starts and not during halftime. So that's the thing. The other thing happening at Northwood, Coach Vernon is pushing their hot dog of the week, which includes, he states, real crab meat. So I may get there early tonight to see how good or how bad that will be. But that's their hot dog of the week for $8. All right. Let's talk about do you want to talk power rankings first, or do you want to talk about what you see as the potential for the postseason tournament, postseason playoffs?
Yeah, we can do power rankings right quick. I mean, it's not
Right.
much different from what has been the past 2 or 3 weeks. And also tonight, Chatham Central is also having their senior night as well, honoring their seniors in their game against Winston-Salem Prep. So just wanted to note that as well. But same power rankings from the past 2 or 3 weeks. We have Chatham Central coming in at 4, Jordan Matthews at 3, Northwood at 2, and Seaforth at 1. And then as far as playoff picture, I do have the RPIs, but I think we're down to the last week. I did go and look at high school OT's playoff projections that were updated yesterday. So just to give an idea of what they're seeing, and they do a really good job of breaking this down, going through the RPIs and determining what the possibilities could be. So just looking at what high school OT is saying as far as the playoff projections. In 1A, Chatham Central will be the 9 seed on the west side, and they'll have to travel to Winston-Salem Prep, the 8 seed there in that first round, just if this is just a projection. And then in 3A, we'll have possibly number 18 Northwood going to number 15 Farmville Central in the east. And then in 4A on the east side as well, we'll have number 16 Jordan Matthews potentially going to number 17 Red Springs. And then in 5A East, we'll have number 19 Seaforth potentially going to number 14 South Brunswick. And these are the projection matchups, and not the ones that's different matchups for some of the teams in their projections, as if the season would have ended last week. So just to give you an idea, we'll have some teams, 3 teams on the road. And Jordan Matthews, actually in both the high school OT's projections, as far as if the season ended last week and their projection as of yesterday, they have them hosting. So we could have a home playoff game in the county next week with Jordan Matthews, and we'll see how that shakes out with the rest of the games tonight.
Yeah, that would be pretty neat if that happened. So again, Thursday night tonight, you got homecoming at Chatham Central, Seaforth, and Northwood. Go out and support the players. I'm glad it's not supposed to rain tonight. I know it's been drizzling a little bit this morning, but it's going to make for good weather. Hey, folks, if you're taking pictures out there of that portion of it, or you got a little video clips, go ahead and post them and let us know about it. Quick rundown. Again, I'm following us on Facebook as we're doing this. Jennifer's watching, Cassandra, Derek, Melody, Rhonda, Alan, Heather, and several others. And again, sometimes folks say, how come my name hasn't showed up? I have no idea. That's all up to Facebook. All right, so that takes care of the football portion. Now, there's a couple of former Chatham County basketball student athletes that are playing out there. So we got some information on Drake Powell and also Jaron Stevenson. So why don't you give us a rundown of what's going on with Drake? I mean, in my agenda, I said he's moved to the G League, but Asheebo's got an update on that. So again, Jaron and Drake, or Drake and Jaron.
Yeah, so on Drake, you guys have been following along. He did injure his ankle in the first game against the Hornets last week on Wednesday. So the Nets did assign him to the G League team, the Long Island Nets, just to kind of ramp up from the injury to practice with the team, but they recalled him yesterday as well, and he was back on the sideline, I think, with the Nets in their loss last night. So just a matter of him getting in at this point, getting back on the floor for the Nets, and hoping and making sure that ankle is okay as the season goes on. So that's just an update on Drake there. And then, yeah, like you said, Jaren hit the floor last night at the Dean Smith Center with Winston-Salem State coming in. He knocked down 2 threes, finished the game 4 for 5 from the field, and finished the night with 11 points, 2 blocks, 6 rebounds. So solid night from Jaren, who did, like you said, start that game for Carolina. So far so good.
I put out a video on that. You can find that on the YouTube channel. Also, Jaren was one of the players that came out in the post-game interviews. I stuck around with him. He spoke for about 11 minutes, and that's as different media outlets were asking him questions. And, he was happy about his sister. We're going to talk about that in just a second because we're going to get into the big news. Volleyball championship game coming up. We had 2 teams playing earlier in this week. One of them's going on to the championship, and one of them fell short. So, Asheebo, why don't you give us a rundown of what's going on in Chatham County volleyball as we go into the championship game tomorrow night?
Yeah, so, biggest story now going into tomorrow is we have Seaforth once again competing for a state championship, second straight year that they've made it to this point. But I want to start with Woods Charter. Shout out Woods Charter volleyball team this season. Historic year for them and head coach Amanda Goff and her group. I think this is their they fell 3-0 to Falls Lake in the regional final earlier this week. But that's the furthest they've been as a program. And so this is their deepest playoff run, 21 straight wins before that loss. So just a dominant run for them this season. Before that loss, they hadn't lost since August 18th. So just think about that. And Cecilia Brignati also earned her 1,000th career assist in the playoff run as well. She's only a sophomore, so there's more to come from her. But yeah, deepest playoff run. I think most wins in program history as well. Just dominant season for Woods Charter volleyball, program that's really been on the come up the past couple years, and we're one step away from the state title appearance. So congrats to them on a great season. But of course, Seaforth, like we said, the 5th seed here in 5A, they defeated number 3 Person 3-2. I was watching this game on the stream. They were down 2-0 in this game and came all the way back. And we know in a 5-set game where you're coming all the way back, that's going to lead to big numbers, especially from your heavy hitters and your best setters. Naomi Stevenson, the freshman, 30 kills in this game. She led the team there by far. And Josie Valgas set up 54 kills in this one. She had 54 assists in this game. So just huge performances from those two. Allie Forbes came in and knocked down a couple of service aces as well. So, the team has been, considering, what they've been through this season with Allie going out, they had to plug some players in different positions. You have a freshman that was finding her way early on and stepping up as a leader on this team. They did take some tough losses to some really good teams earlier in the year, which they haven't really been used to in the past 2 or 3 seasons. But they come into the playoffs. They face Cedar Ridge again, who they had lost to 3 times prior this season. They knock off Cedar Ridge at their place. They go and play a really good Person team, come back from down 2-0, and they've really clawed their way back to the state championship game. So congrats to Coach Scott Green, his program. They've done a spectacular job this season of getting back to this point. And they'll be playing number 1 Hickory from the west side, a team that's 34-3 this season. They've won 11 straight. And both of these programs are looking for their first state title win. So it should be a pretty intense match, as neither team has won it all yet. And just a player to look out for from Hickory's side is Emmy Gamble. She leads the team in kills with 580 and aces with 66 on the year. So she's a heavy hitter herself. And I'm sure Seaforth will get ready to field her swings and the rest of the team as they try to avenge last year's loss in the state championship game.
Yeah, reminder, folks, that game is taking place at the Joel Coliseum over in Wake Forest. Yeah, it's right by Wake Forest University in Winston-Salem. That game is at 7:30. It's probably for most of you folks driving out of Chatham County about an hour and a half ride. So to keep that in mind, I personally would prefer if they would be playing at Reynolds Coliseum because Reynolds, it can fill up really nicely, especially since there's no Seaforth football game tomorrow night. So there's no excuse for folks not to come out and watch Seaforth volleyball game at Joel. I think there'll be a student section. You're going to be out there tomorrow, aren't you, Asheebo, right?
Yes,
Yeah, I'll be out there as well. So we'll be covering that, folks, and we're wishing those ladies the best of luck. And the neat thing is, I think Asheebo you and I talked about this briefly last week, the fact that Seaforth had lost to Cedar Ridge 3 times. I'm like, yeah, you know what? They could still pull it off, and they certainly did in that 4th game. So that was good to see. All right, we got other stuff going on. We mentioned football. Playoff slots being announced on Sunday. Let's get into soccer before we get into girls flag football and the other sports.
Yeah, boys soccer coming to an end this week. So I think we only have one more game in the entire county with Northwood hosting Southwest Randolph on Saturday. But just run down the scores from this last week. We had Jordan Matthews ending the year strong with a 10-1 win over URE Charter. And then they followed that with a 7-1 win over Eastern Randolph. They end the season with a 15-7 record, 7-3 in the conference. And then Northwood 3-0 win over URE Charter. And like we said, they're going to be playing Southwestern Randolph on Saturday. Southwestern Randolph already clinched the conference championship for the Forwards 3A, 4A conference. And then we have Seaforth. They got a big win over South Granville, 8-0. But Orange snapped their win streak here at the end of the season with a 3-1 victory over Seaforth. So Seaforth's going to end their year 9-9-3 and 7-4-1 in the Big 7 4A 5A conference. And then down in 1A, Central Tar Heel 1A conference, we have Woods Charter ending the year with a 3-0 win over Ascend Leadership, and then another forfeit win for Woods Charter over Southern Wake Academy. So they're going to end their season 13-3-1 and 10-2 in the conference, and in second place there behind, I think, Clever Garden School. And then also, too, with Woods, 13-3-1, most wins since 2016 for them. So a really, really impressive year for Coach Graham Stewart and his Wolves this season. So looking at some of the high school LT playoff projections, of course, once again for boys soccer, because they're going to be seeded on Sunday, the same day as football. Over in 1A West, we have number 14 Chatham Charter looking probably to get a bye in the first round. 1A East, number 5 Woods Charter could also get a bye here. And 3A East, Northwood, the 7th seed projected there, could also get a bye. And then our first round games for teams that actually play here in this first round, 4A East, number 9 Jordan Matthews could host number 24 URE Charter, which they've had no problem with this season in conference play. And then in 5A East, number 12 Seaforth could host number 21 Southern Guilford. So just gives you a somewhat of an idea of what we could see in that first round. Like I said, we could have 3 teams, essentially 4, depending on how it goes on Sunday, getting a bye in that first round. And we'll see, like we said, a lot of good teams in the county this year, especially between JM, Northwood, Woods, even Seaforth at times has looked pretty good as well with their ability to put up some points as of late. We'll see if we'll have a team make a magical run here in the state playoffs.
Yeah, I was going to say, folks, football and soccer, they're going to announce the playoff slots on Sunday. I posted right down below. You got Asheebo on X on Asheebo R38. So we'll be back next Thursday. And, of course, you got the paper that comes out on Thursday. But if you want to find out what's going to be happening, check out Asheebo on Sunday. I think the time is going to be sometime after 2 o'clock. Also want to thank some other folks for watching. PJ. Hey, PJ, he's watching, and one of the other photographers for the Chatham News and Record. Cassandra, Tom, Lee, Jose, Will, Lewis. Angela Glover says, hello, gentlemen. Thank you, Angela, for watching. We want to thank everybody for watching. All right, let's get into girls flag foot. Oh, did you do the power rankings for soccer?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, unofficial power rankings. This pretty much be the end here for it. I think what the season, the way the season ended, Northwood really made a statement when they got that big win over JM. But I do think JM is still the top team here in the county. I put them at 1. I put Northwood at 2. Another great year for them. 12 wins, 5 ties, 5 losses. Well, so far. And I'll put Woods at 3. I'll put Chatham Charter at Seaforth at 4, and then Chatham Charter at 5.
All right, so there's your unofficial soccer rankings. All right, let's talk about girls flag football. They were supposed to have their championship games on Wednesday. That got postponed because of the bad weather. Tell us what's coming up with them and their champ. Who's going to face off against whom in the championship game in girls flag football?
Well, yeah, it depends. So we'll have a tournament between the top 4 teams in the standings. So girls flag football, we have in the final standings, we have Southeast Alamance, number 1 with 12-0 record. Number 2, Northwood, 9-3. Number 3, Seaforth, 4-8. And number 4, Jordan Matthews, 3-9. And let me pull up. I think I was given a bracket for the tournament. Yeah, so 6:00 Tuesday at JM. First round of the tournament will be Jordan Matthews going up against Southeast Alamance, and then Seaforth will battle Northwood. And then the winner of those games will be in the final game at 7:00 for the championship. So pretty short tournament here, but it should be pretty exciting. We have, like I said, Southeast Alamance hasn't been beaten yet this season. They've been really good, but maybe we'll see someone finally take down the Stallions here late in the season. I think, just judging from what we've seen this year and how the games have played out, I will probably see Southeast Alamance and Northwood in that final game, and that could be interesting because Northwood, they've been getting better, and we already knew the athleticism they had, and a lot of the girls that can run down the field, that can catch. They got some big bodies as well. So it should be interesting to see if they could knock off Southeast Alamance or at least make that game close. So it should be a pretty exciting day on Tuesday.
Yeah, Northwood's got a pretty good team. They got 5 of their basketball players playing on that flag football team. They're doing well, and Coach Whitaker gets that group of girls going with no balls on the ground. He's got them all hyped up. Did you say that is happening on Tuesday? I thought it was originally supposed to be on Monday. So did they switch that to Tuesday?
Monday. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was reading the email from what was supposed to be Tuesday this week. So yes, Monday.
All right.
Monday at JM will be the tournament.
And folks, remember, they're playing on half field, so there's 2 games going on at one time, except for that championship game where there'll only be the 1 game. So you'll have the 2 games that get into that championship game, and then this championship game will probably take place sometime between 7 and 7:30. All right, let's see. We can knock that off. So let's get into golf, tennis, and cross country before we get into what's in this week's paper.
So golf, we had 2 athletes from Northwood in the state championships. We had Taylor Thompson from Northwood, the senior, finishing 25th with a score of 104. And then we had Brianna Graham finishing 37th with a score of 115. So a great effort from those 2 ladies in the state championships for 3A, and their season ended there. But also cross country, state championships for cross country is this weekend starting tomorrow. We'll have our 1A, 3A, and 4A boys and girls races happening tomorrow. And then we'll have Saturday will be the 5A race. And just looking at the final rosters, I mean, we have plenty of athletes in each of these classifications. Especially 1A. Chatham Charter has plenty. Chatham Central has 2 with Jackson Hughes and Ansley Pressler. Like I said, Chatham Charter, especially the boys with Taurus Price, who's done some great things this year, and Eli Coleman as well. They have a great set of boys. And Woods Charter also in 1A. So, yeah, plenty of athletes. We'll have the results in the Roundup coming up in the next week's paper. Should be next week's paper to give you guys the results from the state championships. And maybe we'll see a couple athletes or one or two break through and win the state championship. We don't know. So we'll see how that goes this weekend. But if you guys would like to go out and see it, it will be at the IBM Redmond Sports Complex. Like I said, 1A, 3A, 4A on Friday, and 5A on Saturday.
All right. So you got those activities. I see PJ just noted rough time for golf, rain both days, and canceled the second day. So yeah, the weather's played havoc with the sports schedules this past week. All right, so we got that, but today is when the paper comes out, the Chatham News and Record. So Asheebo, what do you have in print in this week's Chatham News and Record paper?
Yeah, so of course we have the story on Jordan Matthews and Southwest Randolph soccer. That was a two-paper story for here and Randolph, so you can read more about that game. That was a big one for Southwestern Randolph because that one gave them the conference title. And we talked about that one last week with Jam scoring 3 goals within like 3 minutes to take the lead there, but still falling short. Of course, we have the story from Seaforth and JF Webb football from last Friday night. We have our regular fall sports roundup with some more details on how the rest of the volleyball playoffs went, some other results, and you can read more about the cross-country results as well from the regional races. We have our football roundup and preview. Talked a little bit about that today for tonight's games. And then we have a little short update on Drake Powell, just a story on his first game, making his dreams come true. And but also, too, of course, updates on his injury from what happened in that game. So you can read more about that there. And then, of course, we have our athlete of the week.
All right, let's get into the athlete of the week. Who is this week's athlete of the week?
Yeah, I mentioned her already on stream. We talked about this young lady plenty of times throughout the season. So it's going to be Josie Valgas, Seaforth volleyball. And I did this is before where she had the 54 assists and that came over person, but she earns athlete of the week for performance in the 4th round of the 5A playoffs. She set a career high 40 assists to help Seaforth overcome Cedar Ridge in that big game where they won 3-1 there to advance to their second straight regional final. Of course, now they're in their second straight state championship game. Before that, she also had 30 assists in the Hawks' 3rd round win over number 4 West Carteret. So, guys, Josie Valgas, TCU commit. She's been a huge part of Seaforth's success this season. Like I said, when Allie Forbes went down earlier this year, she stepped up and kind of helped fill in her role when she was down, helped Seaforth stay afloat. She's recorded, I think, before last night. Before Monday night's game. Not Monday night. I'm sorry, but before the game earlier this week, she combined for 104 assists in Seaforth's first 3 playoff games. So she's been on a tear. Hopefully, she'll keep playing to that level on tomorrow night, and we'll see if she can help lead Seaforth to their first volleyball state title.
Yeah, and Josie, congratulations. And hey, Josie's friends and family, you need to pick up a copy of the paper. And I mentioned that because earlier this week, my wife and I were going through some clippings from our kids' school days. And yeah, even though they're out of college and moving on, those are the kind of things you look back at and cherish. And yeah, we can talk about it here, but if you get that Asheebo's Athlete of the Week in print, that's a nice memory to have and hold on to. All right, Asheebo, you and I are going to be at tonight's Northwood game. We're going to be at the championship volleyball game in Winston-Salem tomorrow. Is there any place else that you know you're definitely going to be at?
Not really right now. I think I will. Of course, we're starting basketball with the charter schools next week. Chatham Charter, Woods Charter, they're going to get started with a regular season. So I may hit one of those games to preview their seasons for our basketball preview coming out in the week after. I know we'll have Seaforth, Jordan Matthews, and Chatham Central's boys basketball teams and Jordan Matthews girls basketball team at the Jamboree hosted by Jordan Matthews on Saturday, November 8th. So I know I'll be there. Of course, first round football that Friday. So it's a lot going on. We're in a transition period between fall sports, basketball, and winter sports are starting up next week and the week after that for the non-football schools. So, yeah, I'll probably be all over the place.
All right, and folks, I'm posting it again. You can follow Asheebo on Asheebo R38. I maintain the ChathamNC Sports X account. So, but Asheebo's, if you want to know where he's going to be, definitely need to follow him. And as I said, between now and next Thursday when the paper comes out and when we're on a live stream again, he's got content that's going out. And what you will probably see after tonight's game is some interviews that he does with the players and coaches. So, folks, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Pick up a copy of the paper and read Asheebo's stories in hard print. Asheebo, anything else before we say bye?
Oh, no. Just thank you all once again for watching us, following us with our coverage. And we hope to see y'all either tomorrow night at Winston-Salem, tonight at the game, just wherever. Once again, don't hesitate to say hello to us. And we enjoy seeing everyone out here and covering your athletes.
All right. And you Seafort students, if you're out there tomorrow night, get a couple of selfies with Asheebo to show that you're out there with the legend. All right, folks, we will talk to you. We'll be back on Thursday, and maybe we'll see you tonight and tomorrow. We're signing